conversations, because we're going to be looking for lots of feedback and information from all of you. We really view this as your presentation on building workplace resiliency. Throughout this, oh, look at that.
That's my fault.
Throughout this presentation, we're going to be sharing some of the latest research with regards to workplace resiliency. But more than that, we're really going to focus in on building a business case. Why do you care about resiliency within your business? And we'll look at some best practices, things that you can do to enhance your resiliency. We're going to take just a quick moment, tell you a little bit more about who we are, and then we want to find out a bit about what brought you guys here today. Oh, do you want to? We were trying to get that set before, but for some reason it was just, there we go. All right. So I am Susan Sawatsky. I am the president and founder of InScope Solutions. And we are a consulting and training company that focuses in on human risk factors. In terms of my background, I have a master's in industrial psychology, but I find a lot of people don't know what an industrial psychologist is. So I'll share that it is a professional who works with businesses to help them really figure out the systems and processes to make things better for their human capital, their people. And what I've discovered in working with businesses over the years is that making businesses better for people just makes better businesses. In terms of my career, I've had a bit of a long career path. I actually started out as a junior high math and sciences teacher. I think that's where I learned all my skills in stress management. But I also learned a lot about instructional design, and I learned a lot about how to make learning meaningful for people. And we use a lot of those interactive elements in our current training and in our overall presentations. And I think it makes us a little bit unique in terms of industry. I learned very quickly you cannot be in front of a bunch of junior high kids and not be engaging. We're still stuck again. Should be working. I'm not sure why. I'll try that again. Okay, there we go. Oh, that was me, I think. Sorry, guys. Thanks for. It should have like 100-meter range, so we should be good. There we go. Okay, I just turned it on and off again. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your patience with that. I still do a lot of teaching in my current career. I'm currently an instructor for the University of Alberta, the University of Calgary, and the University of New Brunswick. And for those universities, I teach in the areas of human risk factors. I teach HR and safety professionals, courses like fatigue risk management, psychological health and safety, business and leadership, and more. There we go. We're
So hi, everyone. My name is Rowan Sawatsky, and I work as a communication and training consultant for InScope Solutions. So I mainly focus on training, educating, marketing, media, that kind of stuff. I have a bachelor degree from the University of Calgary in communications and media, and I've been with InScope for about 5 years now. And together we are InScope Solutions. So we do consulting and training. Still no?
No, we might even have to just move it somehow. That's going. There we go.
Maybe the batteries.
Sorry. Thanks, guys. I might have to switch it up.
So we do a lot of consulting and training with mid to large size businesses on mostly human risk factors. So just helping employees. So this could be things like stress and fatigue management, mental health and wellness, supervisor training, harassment prevention, or just enhancing overall workplace cultures. And we really want to focus on enhancing a company's best asset, which is of course their people. So we like to say we're the people part of safety. Maybe point it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, there we go. Although we do hail from Barhead, we have had the privilege of working with large clients all across Canada and the US. I think our best known client is NASA. We've had the chance to work with everyone from engineers to astronauts on several occasions in the area of fatigue risk management. Okay, I think we're gonna have to just try and adjust something. I don't know, let's see if we can get a bit more of direct sites. Might have to swap sides, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And we're actually very excited to announce that we were recently chosen as one of Canada's top 10 industrial training providers by Manufacturing Outlook magazine. So we're very honored to have received this award, and you can keep an eye out for that publication in the next few months.
There we go. I think we're working now. All right, enough about us, and thank you for your patience as we work through some of these glitches here. I'm gonna ask everybody to take out your phone. So I know most presenters tell you to put it away, but we want you all to take it out. We want to find a little bit more about what brought you here and who's here in the room. So when you get to your phone, there's going to be two ways to participate. The first, you can open a browser and go to kahoot.it. So that's KAHOOT.it. And then in just a moment, we're going to give you a game pin. The other way you can jump in the room is we're going to pull up a QR code, and you might be able to just point your phone at the computer and get it working from there. So. This one. Okay. Good. And down a little. Yeah. Okay, so the game pin is 2489745. Looks like a few people are already coming in the room. You can make the QR code again one more time, just people like can't use that if they want. That should be good. No, so yes at the end, but not yet.
We have a second one at the end that's for prizes. So.
This is really fun.
This one, we're just gonna be doing some polling and finding out a little bit more about everyone. At the end, we're gonna get competitive with prizes. So yeah, roll up your sleeves if you're ready. All right,
Is anyone still trying to get in?
we good? Okay, you will still be able to join if for any reason you drop out or you're not quite there yet, but I think we're there. All right. Sense. Okay, our first question is a word cloud, so it's just going to be a short word or two. And we just want to know what brought you here today. So in a, 2 or 3 words at the most, just tell us what brought you here today. We gave a little longer for this one. We figured it might take people time to get it all in. Everybody's got a few more seconds to get their answers in. So the last 10 seconds, make sure you got your answer in, and there we go. Okay, how to manage burnout, networking wellness, to learn and gain information and connections, interest in the topic, that's really good. I see learning, when they come a little bit bigger, that means multiple people put that one down. So learning and supporting employers. Yeah, PD and knowledge, resiliency, and a regular, I like that, awesome.
I like the one that says lunch. It's the only reason I'm here too, don't worry.
Good stuff. All right, question number 2. This one's going to be a multiple choice. You won't see the answers, you'll just see the shape that matches. So, are you experiencing issues with staffing shortages? If it's yes, significant issues, you're going to choose the red triangle. Yes, moderate issues is the blue diamond. Yes, only mild issues or no shortages. Can you guys see? Am I in your line of wait?
You're good.
Good.
I did one.
There we go. Okay, so lots of people with no shortages, that's really good. But I think the balance is going between significant, moderate, and some mild issues, so that's excellent. Good. Gives us a good feel, I think, some benchmarking. Which of the following do you feel is most impacting your business? So out of these choices, employee mental health and well-being, attracting and retaining employees, workplace productivity, or absenteeism? Which would you say is the biggest of those four for your organization? Love the music, it's so dramatic. Okay, here we go. Most people looking for employee mental health and well-being, that's excellent. Attracting and retaining employees is also part of the picture and building resiliency, workplace productivity, and no one was worried about absenteeism, so that's good. Okay, this was a little bit different. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your business in terms of employee resilience? So you're gonna have that sheet that you see there, and you're just gonna move it around until the pin is where you want it to be. So it'll just be kind of manipulating it on your screen, and when the pin's in the right place, you can submit. Five more seconds. Excellent. Okay, so we've got everywhere from 4 to 9, most sitting in the middle there. 5, 7, 8. Awesome. Oh, that's where it is. That was me, I think, sorry. How many employees do you have in your business? So just getting a feel for the size of businesses, under 5, 6 to 25, 26 to 100, over 100. Okay, so quite a few larger businesses, some in the mid-range, and then a couple of smaller businesses. Awesome. All right. Okay, 6 out of 7. What industry is your business? So what's your industry? This one's short answer. And your short answer is actually going to ask you to, no, that's short answer. It's short answer. Oh, it's Two more seconds to get it in. All right. Local government, employment services, nonprofit, paper, several in social services, several in forestry and government, transport and energy, human services, business support. Excellent. Fantastic. All right, so municipal. And this is our last question. What is something that you're hoping to get out of today? So this one is our short answer. And this one, make sure you submit with plenty of time because it's going to ask you to choose a keyword in your short answer. So you have a little bit more ability to put longer characters in this one, and then you use a keyword and submit. Okay, so just under 20 seconds to get those in, and make sure you choose your keyword. It'll make you submit it one time. Thanks. 4 more seconds. I think everyone's got them in. And here we go. Hey, excellent. Managing burnout, resiliency, helping employees, getting more information on building connections. That's excellent. Knowledge and strategies, more so on strategies. That's really good. We are going to talk about strategies quite a bit, so I think that's good. Some people looking for tools and techniques. We'll make sure we touch on those. Self-care. I really like that. That's an excellent one. Being back on the team, understanding fatigue, current issues and resiliency, and tips. Good. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us. That helps us too as we're going through. We'll make sure we sort of emphasize certain things within the content. All right, let's hope we're having better luck with our remote here. It does tell me it's on full battery, so. Okay, so we can get rid of that, but that's all right. Okay. I'm back, yeah. Run.
You didn't want to jump the table?
It was tempting. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. So now we're gonna start off by jumping into resilience. So I want us to take a second and just imagine a company. And this company really thrived once upon a time, but in recent years, it's been struggling a bit. So it's having issues with things like hiring employees, and it's constantly advertising for new employees, but can't seem to find high quality people to hire. And then because of this, a lot of the remaining staff are feeling overworked to fill in those gaps. And then they start taking sick days because of their feeling overworked. And then those remaining staff feel even more overworked. They've seen a decline in things like profitability, and they're probably seeing more and more complaints from clients and customers. So what do? Where would they even start? How do they get their business back to a place where it's thriving? That's what we're going to be looking at today and learning about. And the best place to start is with resilience. The nice thing about resilience is that it's actually not something that you were born with. It can be learned by definition. It's the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult events. It involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned. So today, a lot of the coping mechanisms that we're going to be learning about, what they're doing is helping build that resiliency.
We're going to take a look at resilience from two different perspectives. So we're going to look at it from an individual employee perspective, and we're going to think about things that employers can do in terms of enhancing that resilience. And then we're going to look at it from an organizational perspective, looking at the business as a whole. So why is resilience important for our organizations? Well, we know that when we experience a lot of stress and long-term stress, it has an impact on us. It impacts our health and our capacity to function. So when businesses are encouraging that resilience and building it, they're going to see things like an increase in productivity and performance. They're going to see things like enhanced problem solving and decision making within their staff. They're going to notice improved mental health and well-being, and overall better work and collaboration. Yeah, sorry for that on the bottom. We can't seem to get rid of it. I don't know. In terms of stats to support that, we can note that resilient employees are 46% less likely to take sick days, and they're 33% more likely to be productive at work. We can see that employees with high resilience are 72% less likely to experience high stress levels, and those with higher resilience are 47% better at problem solving and 30% better at collaborating with others.
So you may be wondering, well, how do I know if my workplace is resilient? So we're going to take a second and do an activity where we're going to go through 10 questions. And I'm going to ask you guys, and you just answer internally yes or no. And if it's a yes, you give yourself a point. And if it's no, you give yourself no points. And at the end, you can kind of gauge and see where you're at in terms of your workplace resilience. So first, do you have many long-standing employees and low turnover? So if you feel this is mostly true, you can give yourself a point. Can employees handle changes or problems at work and still get things done efficiently? So if there's a big change at work or a problem arises, are your employees still able to manage their day-to-day tasks fairly well? Do people at work get along well and have minimal conflict? So again, if you feel that's overall true for your employees, give yourself a point. When conflict does occur, does your staff resolve it quickly and move on? So is your staff able to kind of work through it, either by themselves or with the manager, or do you find that they're holding a grudge and still bringing it up possibly weeks later? And is work set up so that people can have enough time for both their lives and their work? So they have a good work-life balance at the workplace. Are employees openly communicating and collaborating effectively with each other? Are they choosing to work together and work together well? Is there a noticeable level of trust and respect between employees and managers? This is a really key one. do employees feel adequately rewarded for the work they do? So if they're going above and beyond, do they feel like they're getting that recognition? Are employees able to provide feedback or have input in the work that they do? And lastly, do most people have a positive attitude and seem happy at work? Do you see a lot of smiles, hear a lot of laughter? Do people generally seem happy to show up to the workplace? Okay, so we can tally up what we have in our head and see how we did. So if you got 8 to 10, you probably have a fairly strong workplace. So most of the tips we're going to be sharing today will really just focus on enhancing what you already have. If you got 5 to 7, you did pretty good, but there's definitely work to be done. So a lot of the strategies we're going to look at today are probably going to help you stay on that path and get to where you want to go. And lastly, if you got under 5, you're probably struggling a little bit with resiliency in the workplace. So as much as the strategies we'll share today will be very helpful, you're probably going to want to assess where your company's currently at and find where you want to build up that resiliency and that workplace culture.
All right, let's jump in and start with the business case. And we want to start by looking at employee resiliency. And of course, when we're talking about building employee resiliency, what we're talking about are what are the things that you as an employer can do to help enhance the coping skills of your employees. And we'll start with the really basics, thinking about mental health. And when we think about mental health, I want to just take a minute and get our thoughts on mental health. So when I say the term mental health, what first pops into your head? What's the first thing you think about? Just throw it out.
Everybody knows that.
Everyone has it? Yeah, yeah. What do we think about with mental health? That's absolutely right.
Stress.
Stress, yep. What else?
Concerns?
Concerns, yeah. Things that worry us, concerns, absolutely. What else? We'll get a couple more.
It fluctuates.
It fluctuates, yeah, absolutely. Okay, one more. How we function or don't function, absolutely. And thank you guys. I did warn you at the beginning, we were gonna get some feedback here. All of these things are part of mental health and wellness overall. But what I often find is in our regular conversations, we sometimes use the term mental health and mental illness interchangeably. So I want to take a minute and just define those two terms. When we're thinking about mental health, we're really talking about the idea of someone who's in a state of well-being, in which the individual is going to realize their own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life. We can think about it as an important part of our overall health and wellness, and it really refers to our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. We can compare this to mental illness. Mental illness is really a serious disturbance in our thoughts, feelings, or perceptions that impact us in day-to-day life. And that's really when it becomes a defined mental illness. But you'll hear us more often use the terms mental health problems and illnesses because it just lets us refer to all of those things, thoughts, feelings, behaviors that can cause us stress and distress in our day-to-day lives. And this has a huge impact on us in terms of our society and in terms of our workplaces. We know that 1 in 3 Canadians are going to experience a mental illness in their lifetime. That stat keeps going up year after year. Currently, 1 in 7 employees have a mental illness, and of those, 82% say it impacts their ability to do their work. And mental health disorders will cost an employer more than physical disorders in terms of medical costs, absenteeism, short and long-term disability, and productivity.
And an interrelated part of our mental health is how we cope with and manage the stress in our lives. We may notice that with some people, they can handle a lot of stress and they seem to deal with it pretty well. And then with other people, the smallest amount of stress seems to just overwhelm them. But like resilience, managing our stress is something that can be learned. So we're going to watch a short video that shows a really good analogy on how learning these different coping strategies with stress can help our resilience.
When trying to measure our stress tolerance, the bucket analogy can be helpful. Our stress tolerance, or the size of our bucket, is a product of our genes, personality, and life experiences. and its size varies from person to person. The water in this analogy is the combination of all the stress in your life. We use the coping strategies we have available to keep our bucket from overflowing. They are like taps that allow water to drain from the bucket. Stress can include training, work, school, relationships, finances, moving, changing jobs, or the loss of a loved one. Both positive and negative experiences will affect the water level. A big bucket can hold more water or stress before it overflows. With a smaller bucket, less water is required for the water or stress level to become critical. While you can't change the size of your bucket, you can make life adjustments to reduce water coming in. You can also learn new coping strategies and stress management techniques to allow water to drain out. Mind tools, exercise, quality sleep, relaxation, and sharing your feelings with friends are some examples of effective water taps. Staying up late, sleeping in, drugs, inactivity, procrastination, suppressing or ignoring problems are examples of unhelpful coping strategies or false taps. They might give temporary relief, but actually result in water flowing back into your bucket.
So how do we know if our workplaces are stressful? Honestly, it's pretty intuitive. I know that I used to do auditing many years ago when I was going into different workplaces quite often. I could tell within 10 minutes of being in a workplace if it was a place where people were really stressed or if it was pretty level and people felt they had manageable workloads. And we know that stress has a big impact on us in terms of our mental health and wellness. 51% of adults who reported that they were highly stressed noted they were also feeling depressed, and 61% also reported feeling anxious. 1 in 4 Canadian workers report that they're feeling stressed, so that's about 25%. And of those, 60% noted work as a main contributor. And 80% of Canadian workers say that they would like their employers to take a more active role in terms of supporting them with their stress.
And we know that individuals have their own levels of resilience, but this is very heavily influenced by the workplace. So if you have employees that are feeling overworked or are dealing with very high levels of stress for a long period of time, that could lead to burnout. So what does burnout look like in comparison to stress? Well, when you have stress, you're going to see a lot of high levels of over engagement. They're going to be very reactive or overreactive with their emotions. And they're going to have this sense of urgency or hyperactivity. So let's go, 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 let's get it done, right? But we all know people like that. Sometimes we're like that when we're stressed. And you're going to see lost or diminished energy when they do have a bit of a crash. This often leads to feelings of anxiety, and it's very physically tolling on an individual. Now, we're going to see that shift in employees when they move into a feeling of burnout. So we're going to see high levels of disengagement and very blunted or distant emotions with a sense of helplessness in the individual. Their motivation is going to be lost or at least extremely diminished. And this can lead to feelings of depression and is very emotionally tolling on that individual.
So who in your organization is most likely to be impacted by burnout? Both research and experience tell us that it is most likely to be your star performers. In terms of that, you're going to see people who are most invested in your business, most likely to burn out first. People who have heavy workloads and who work long hours, and often it's your managers or those with a lot of responsibility.
So what does this mean to you? We're going to pause and take a couple minutes and have everyone just turn to their neighbor. And we want you to discuss what are some issues your employees are facing in terms of coping skills. What does this look like in your workplace? So we'll give you a few minutes to have that discussion, and then we can come back and discuss a few ideas.
Hi, neighbors. Employees, but you work with a lot of people. More I work here, but yeah. For sure, but what I'm hearing, things have a similar workflow, different. But you hear common complaints or amendments, whatever. I'm asking that because. It's not. Yeah. So many offices and managers, they just. That would be because.
So I lived in that. We never fully staffed.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they are management wise, just not the support staff behind them. Like, none. No. But I think going for a seat that's. You never know.
We'll bring it back. We were actually a little reluctant. We're like, "Ooh, we're at time, but everybody's so engaged. But we will bring it back and maybe just gather a few of the ideas that you were sharing.
So one of our issues is helping to define what the issues are.
Right.
So this is where this question was great in that previous 10-point survey. Those were great tools for us so far. And then the other part of things is we know that especially in municipal government, people are aging out. And so when you take a look at the next 2 to 5 years in our organization, the turnover due to retirement is going to be huge. It's most of the leadership team. So those are fundamental.
Yeah.
Yeah, that lost knowledge, it really is becoming an issue as a lot of boomers and even Gen X are starting to retire and new generations coming in, and there almost seems to be that knowledge gap in between. We also have a really good tool that we'll give you at the end that'll help even more with that assessment piece. Yeah, as a municipality, are you guys focusing on psychological health and safety as a key initiative?
Yes, actually, this is one of the reasons why I was able to have that from today is we just recently had done a presentation internally as part of our monthly safety meetings on workplace burnout.
Okay.
And for us, the recognition was knowing that it's one of the biggest undefined and underreported conditions that's in the workplace. That for us was kind of discovering the treasure chest that we create, and now we're opening it up and trying to figure out what can we do.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. You guys want to share one more maybe?
Big for us, so I worked, Rick Kramer's at operations foreman at that K3 plant, with Pemina. One of the big changes for us is, formerly our plant's an older facility. It was first built in the 70s, 50 years old. Through, there's been multiple name changes from company to company. Recently with the Pemina acquisition, the change has been much more substantial than it had been in the past. And we have a lot of older workforce that are just not used, they've done things that way for 40, 45 years. So just kind of explaining to them, or trying to get something like that might seem like a small change, sometimes seems like a giant hurdle to go over. So a little bit of a transition period, I think, as we get to a younger generation of workforce, but yeah.
And change management, when you have those big changes, new ownership, new rules, new processes, that's big. Like that can be very stressful and cause a lot of anxiety. So I can see where that's being a bit of a challenge to get through. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
No, those are really good perspectives.
Always hear something new when we ask.
We do, yeah. Any more insight?
And we can see, even just by those two answers, that investing in employee mental health is really worth it. In fact, for every dollar invested in employee mental health, you're probably gonna see between $2 to $6 in future savings.
All right, so let's take a look at the business case in terms of organizational resilience. And we're looking at organizational resilience, obviously, because even the most resilient employee is not going to be able to thrive in a toxic workplace. So let's start there. What is a toxic workplace? If I was to say this workplace is really toxic, what are some things I'm likely seeing?
Lack of communication.
Lack of communication, yeah.
Well, sometimes there's lots of communication, but from one individual that seems to have. We feel at least spread.
There you
That's
go.
one toxic employee that can spread. right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, very true. What else? What else makes a workplace toxic? Poor leadership? Yeah, absolutely.
Not valuing your employees or people that you work with.
Yeah, and them not feeling valued overall. Absolutely, yeah. All of these things that we're looking at, what they all relate to, of course, is workplace culture. And so when we think, what is workplace culture? Workplace culture, we can formally define it. We can recognize it's our shared values, attitudes, behaviors, and standards. We know that it's our informal and our formal rules and practices. It's the day-to-day experience that people have when they're interacting with our business, and it's part of our external branded messaging. But what is workplace really? What does it look like? Well, it's what happens when managers aren't looking. How do employees behave? It is your overall workplace atmosphere. It's how your customers and clients feel when they are having those interactions with your business. And it's really whether or not people like going to work. Do they enjoy working in your workplace?
And we can see that workplace culture is so important to employees. 77% of job seekers consider a company's culture before applying for a job. 56% of employees reported company culture as more important than salary when it comes to job satisfaction. And 80% of people would choose a job with a lower salary, but a better cultural fit. So how is your culture translated to your employees? Well, there is a lot of ways that it can be translated, but one of the biggest ways is through our leadership. And that's not just our senior leadership, that's also our people-facing leadership in roles like our supervisor. And there's some other things that can impact a workplace culture. Things like workload, right? Is it excessive or is it pretty reasonable? Do your workers have control and autonomy over the work that they do, or do they at least have input and feel like they can give that input? Do they have the resources and support that they need to properly do their work? Do they feel that they get recognition and reward for the ways that they contribute to your business, especially if they're going above and beyond and they're really caring? And is there fairness? Do they feel like the decisions that are being made are fair? They don't have to agree with every decision, but they should feel like there is that the way that these decisions are being made is fair.
All right. Now we've built the business case. Let's start taking a look at resiliency strategies as a whole. And really, you might be wondering, well, why is this so important now? The link between resiliency in an organization and business success, that's been shown for many, many years, but I think it's become even more relevant now than it has been in the past. And the biggest reason is the thing that nobody likes to talk about, and that is COVID, right? And so however you feel about the pandemic, we know it had a huge impact on our businesses. And it caused people a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and it had a really negative impact on people's mental health and wellness. And it's one of the biggest reasons that 2022 became known as the year of the burnout. Why 2022? Well, let's think back. It wasn't that long ago. What happened in 2022? We finally started to really emerge from the pandemic as a whole, but we didn't get this nice finish line that we got to run across and go, yay, it's over. Like we just slowly came into this new normal, and all of that stress that people have been coping with, it just seemed to catch up with everyone. And we sort of realized, oh, like, this is it. This is where we're going. And so we found in 2022, 35% of Canadians today said they were feeling burnout. That is so much higher than had ever been noted before. And in our province, yep, we were one of the top, and I don't think that's surprising to anyone. We were 38% overall. It's also not surprising that employee mental health was in 2022 one of the top 3 concerns for Canadian employers. Employers are recognizing this and trying to figure out, what do we do about it? And it had an impact on us in terms of our staffing. So when we look at these numbers, this is a Chamber of Commerce report from 2023, Alberta. And so the most recent numbers we could find. And if we look in 2022, even near the end, we can see about 31% of employers in Alberta were noting significant work staffing shortages, and 30% were noting moderate staffing shortages. Things are getting a little better. If we looked at this summer, we can see that it's improving in terms of the number of significant to moderate, but 60% of employers overall are still noting staffing shortages.
And we can take a look at this at a real life business case with the company Unilever. So many of you have probably heard of Unilever. They're a multi-conglomerate company who owns brands such as Dove and Hellmann's and Lipton's. And they were having a bit of struggle a couple of years back, and their sales were down, and they knew that they needed to do work differently. So they worked to actually implement resilience initiatives within their company. So what did they do? They started off by implementing training and development programs. So this was things like workshops, seminars, and online resources for their employees, specifically aimed at improving their resilience, their coping strategies, their stress management, their mindfulness. They also looked more into flexible working arrangements. So if people wanted to or could work from home, or building their own schedules to just have that better work-life balance for each individual employee. They also did mental health and supports and resources and initiatives in that area. So first, they offered things like services, so like counselors, other online resources, helplines, and they also worked to reduce the stigma in their workplace. So they opened the doors for those mental health conversations so that they're on par with conversations around things like physical health, and there was less of a stigma within the workplace. And lastly, they made sure that their leadership and managers were able to support their employees. They brought in training and made sure that they were good people leaders, and that they also were able to see any stress or difficulty in their employees and really be there for them. And they saw a huge shift in their workplace culture. Employees reported feeling an overall better sense of well-being. So there was reduced stress levels and an increased sense of well-being in employees. They also saw reduced levels of absenteeism in related to stress and higher productivity and engagement in the company. And just an overall positive shift in that organizational culture that we keep talking about. And as a result of all of these things, their sales went up. So I know you guys may be thinking, okay, but Unilever is a multi-billion-dollar company with the finances and the resources to fund a big culture shift like this. And we agree. But what we're going to be looking at today is ways that you guys can do the similar initiatives in your businesses, but just on a smaller scale.
So once again, we're going to be looking at it from those 2 perspectives. We're going to look at it in terms of individual employee, and we're going to share many ways that an employer can help to enhance employee coping skills. And then in terms of organizational best practices, what we're going to be looking at is creating a healthier workplace culture overall. So let's look at building some of these coping skills. We're going to be taking a look at strategies that you can use to build those coping skills and just gain that overall resilience. As an employer, one of the best things that you can do to enhance your employees' coping skills is doing training and giving them information on things like managing their mental health, building positive mental health habits, and stress management. And it is important that we really help people to understand how to build their mental health, because as a society, we're really good at knowing from the time we're young, the things that we have to do to look after our physical selves. But we're not as good at knowing all of the things that we can do to make ourselves mentally more fit and healthy. And we know that there is no health without mental health. One of the ways we can look at it is recognizing the difference between negative stress management skills and positive stress management skills. So negative skills, those are those ones that don't do us any favors in the long run, like drinking or acting out. These are things that often happen to us if we try and ignore our stress, and then all of a sudden it just becomes too much and we react to it. Compare that to positive skills that we know in the long run do us good. These are things that often happen when we're recognizing that our stress is building and proactively using these techniques, like talking to someone or exercise to help us manage our stress as it goes along. So what we're going to share is just a few of the things that employees can do to help build their toolbox of strategies. Because as an employer, that's what you're really looking to do. Help to build their toolbox of those positive strategies. So this next little bit, we're just going to take some of the information that we share in our employee mental health and resiliency workshops and the ones we have in our stress management workshop, and we'll just share those so that you can think of some strategies for people to build their resiliency.
So first, I want us all to just take a second and think, how do you talk to yourselves? So I'm guessing you, like most of us, have a little voice inside your head that kind of narrates what's going on throughout your day. And I want us all to really think, how does that voice sound? Is it nice to us? Is it a kind voice? For example, if you mess up on something, does that voice go, oh, you idiot, that was so stupid. I can't believe you just did that. Or does it say, okay, yep, we messed up, but we got this. Let's fix this. I'm guessing for most of us, it's that first one, right? We can be really hard on ourselves. But if you wouldn't talk to someone else like that, why do we feel like it's okay to talk to ourselves like that? You can imagine the impact it would have on your mental health if you had someone putting you down constantly and always being so negative. So we can see how that voice in our head being negative can impact our mental health in a big way. In general, that voice should be a good friend and not a bad critic. Yep, yeah.
It's generally really, really positive, but I have to admit, my mom was an amazing woman. And every now and then I find myself using my own middle name when I talk to people. And that's where you kind of go, okay, you know, we made an error. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I'm sure some of you have that.
When the middle name comes in, you know you're in
Yeah.
trouble.
You know, you're in trouble.
Love it. That's excellent. Another mental health habit we can teach people is the fact that we often worry and catastrophize and stress about things that never are going to happen. So let me give you an example. When Browen first graduated high school, she went traveling for 2 years, and she went traveling all over Australia and Southeast Asia. And there would be days where I wouldn't hear from her. What do you think my mind did on those days? I'm thinking any parent in the room knows exactly where it went. Yeah. Did I think things like, oh, she's just having fun with friends, or she's an adult, she doesn't have to check in with me every day, or maybe she just doesn't have cell service? Nope. In my head, I went to the deepest, darkest places. She was, you know, robbed or kidnapped or in a ditch somewhere, like just spiraling down. And many of us do that. Many of us go on that negative mental spiral. And the trick to really stopping this bad habit is to switch your thinking. Every time your mind goes there, switch it over. Think things like, what if it's all okay? And when we force ourselves to move to that positive and distract our mind from the spiral, we can break that negative habit. There's some really great research that came out of Penn State recently. And they found when they were doing their study that people on average had 3 to 4 worrying thoughts per day. Out of those worrying thoughts, what would you guess was the percentage that never happened? 3 out of 4?
Yes.
What do you think?
95%.
95? Pretty close. Yeah. 91. 91% of those negative thoughts never happened. And of that 9% that did happen, over a third of them weren't really as bad as people expected. Okay, so what about that last 6%? The truth is, us worrying and stressing and being upset about it, it doesn't change the outcome. All it does is have us in a less capable, less resilient state so that we're not able to manage those bad things when they do happen.
And one tool that we found that's one of our favorite tools when it comes to gauging our own mental health is the mental health continuum. This tool is really good because it shows us that you're not just mentally healthy or mentally ill. There's an entire continuum in between, and that helps us gauge where we're at in our mental health. So if we take a look at it, we start off with healthy, right? This is normally functioning. You might have normal fluctuations in your mood or your sleep, but overall you're doing pretty good day to day. If you have high levels of stress, you may move into the reacting phase. So this could be more nervousness, muscle tension, trouble sleeping. And if that goes unchecked for a longer period of time, you may move into the injured phase. So this is where it starts to get a little more severe and you're going to see a bit more functional impairment. So things like pervasive sadness or anxiety and decreased performance in our day-to-day tasks. And this can potentially move us into the ill phase. This is where we are not able to perform our daily functions, our daily tasks. And this could be a diagnosable mental illness. So excessive anxiety or depression. And we also probably heard the term boundaries. It seems to be a lot more prevalent lately. You might have heard someone talking about the importance of their boundaries, but what does that really mean? I have a video here with Brene Brown. Has anyone heard of Brene Brown? Yeah, okay, she is fantastic. I highly recommend her. She has a couple books and even an HBO special, and she specializes on human emotions. So in this video, she just touches briefly on why boundaries are so important.
One of the most shocking findings of my work was the idea that the most compassionate people I have interviewed over the last 13 years were also the absolutely most boundary. Because so I'll give you a great definition of the definition of boundary that I use in the book. Boundary is simply what's okay and what's not okay. What I think we do is we don't set boundaries. We let people do things that are not okay or get away with behaviors that are not okay. Then we're just resentful and hateful. Me, I'd rather be loving and generous and very straightforward with what's okay and what's not okay. And I did not learn from the research. I was the exact opposite. I assumed for the first 35 years of my life that people were sucking on purpose just to piss me off.
So the speaker wasn't great, but basically she just covered on how practicing self-care is what allows us to be compassionate towards other people. And we can also look at managing our stress when it comes to coping strategies that we can learn. So a few of these could be something like developing a good support network. Want to give me a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Thanks so much.
I was sleeping on the job there. Actually, where I was thinking, and I'm sorry, I'll cut in. I was thinking that was one of our things that was in the beginning about the self-care and resiliency and how that really tied into it. So I got distracted. Sorry.
This is the fatigue presentation. Wake up. So we are, as human beings, we're naturally social beings. So it makes sense that we need a strong support network in order to alleviate that stress and really feel supported in our lives. And we're actually going to touch on later ways in which you as a business owner can build these social networks within your workplace. We also can delegate responsibilities in order to alleviate our stress. When we have a big workload, we might feel the need to just take it all on and try and get it all done. But to reduce that stress, sometimes it's good to pass those on to someone who has the time or resources in order to be able to complete that task. And we just touched on establishing boundaries. This can also be key when establishing a boundary between work and home life. This could be as simple as saying, I'm not answering emails or taking phone calls after a certain time. And with that work-life balance, we often feel like we need to complete that to-do list in order to take time off and alleviate our stress. That go, 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 and the hard work alone is what's gonna let us relax and feel better. But there's always gonna be stuff on that to-do list. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every time I check something off, 3 new things get added. So we know that it's just kind of never ending. So we want to take that time and set time aside for things that are important, like exercise, time with friends, sleep, healthy eating. And do that alongside the hard work. That's what's gonna make us really productive and reduce that stress.
So once again, we've given lots of strategies, and we want to just give you guys some time to absorb and think about those. And we want to have you just share with each other, what are some strategies that you've used in your workplace or that you've seen employees using in their workplaces that you think relates to all of this? So what are some coping strategies that you've noticed in your business that you think are successful?
So you can turn to your neighbors.
Yeah, we'll give you guys a couple
and we'll share.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We're what?
I need to.
You think it's there if you need it. Take your
I know it's. That's why it's great. It's from it, like it's from the day.
Well, and that's why
Bring them back. So let's get a couple ideas. What are some stress strategies that you use or that you've seen other people use?
Changing environment.
Changing environment, that's a good one. Yeah.
I find even like going outside for a quick walk.
Yeah.
It just uplifts me.
Yep.
In 5 minutes even, like.
Yeah, because when you're feeling overwhelmed, like you said, just getting to a new place kind of helps you, okay, put stuff into perspective and change. Any kind of minor change can really help. Is that what you meant when you said changing environment? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Get away from wherever the pressure is.
Yep.
Communicate with peers.
Yeah, it's a really good one, right? Talk about it.
Do you know what they did? My goodness, right?
Productive. Each person has their own little toolbox. Strategies to use. Yeah,
Like building focus time into your schedule.
that's really good. What is an example of that you use?
Well, I find like during the day, you get so busy talking and communicating, like you say, you get carried away. And if you actually schedule time to focus on completing your tasks and stick to it, then, you know, you're not running out of time to get those things done.
Yeah, that's super good. Just building that solid schedule.
One thing we did out at ANC this year is we built a greenhouse. Yeah, so a couple of us had this cool idea of let's do some green gardening, right? And so me being me, I'm the one I will always ask a question. The answer is always no if you don't ask, right? So I was like, well, I'm just gonna ask it'll be funny. And so I got the approval. So we had a bunch of us build a greenhouse or just ordered it off on Costco. And then whoever wanted to kind of be a part of this little gardening club, like you could come and go as you please. But you know, there was all walks of life that came in, right? We had some of the older guys and the newer people, and it was really nice because it was a place where everyone could kind of go and mingle, but yet still have some sort of purpose at the end of the day, right? Because you'd see the plants growing, and we did corn and tomatoes and all these little things. So every day, you know, I mean, I felt like a gardener more than I did my actual job some days. But, you know, and then you kind of put your crop at the front desk, and whoever kind of wanted a little healthy snack, it's just like, oh, okay, like, hey, like, we grew these here, right? So that was actually, it was a huge, mental health boost of that, and we had a lot of great feedback on that.
That's
Yeah.
great.
It's
Thinking
greenhouse.
outside the box, like, that's so like, I love that.
Yeah,
Like,
right, it was
Totally
just something
new.
that was,
innovative.
exactly, right, where a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, you guys aren't gonna have the time to do a greenhouse, right? But if you have 5 or 10 people kind of checking on it, and then you have, you know, other people who would not normally even interact in a social setting, like, oh, well, I have a greenhouse at home and I'm growing all these things. Oh, well, you should try this, you should do that. Oh, don't do that. So it was very like informative, because you had a lot of people who you wouldn't even normally see, even at a barbecue. So it was, that was a really nice one. Yeah.
Very cool. Online, we've got, Laura had mentioned, micro breaks, and changing environment is a
Yeah.
good idea, but
That's a good
micro
one.
breaks.
Yeah, just 5 minutes, get up, stretch, right? Go
Mhm.
for a walk, anything like that, changing pace.
Do you want to mention the one yesterday? Oh, I'll bring it up. Yesterday, we had a really good one about, doing, personality surveys. And so they had the staff all do the personality surveys. And then- Oh, well. Talk about different ways that it meant how we dealt with things and communicating. All right, what are some other ways that we as employers can help to enhance employee coping skills? Tap into what you already have. Tap into your benefits, look at your employee and family assistance programs. Often when we go in and work with organizations, we find people aren't even aware of what already exists. So find out what you already have in play. There's lots of great websites. So there's the Mental Health Commission of Canada, Canadian Mental Health Association, Mental Health Resources of Canada. These are all great places to go and get free resources that you can use. There is a mental health helpline. This is an Alberta-based one, I believe, and employees can call. And nationally, as of the end of this month, so November 30th, Canada is currently launching a national mental health crisis line, where people can either chat or phone and get help in the moment. And another one to think about is, we found this one, Easy Care. So Easy Care, it's an Alberta-based site, and you can get a free online session with a therapist, psychiatrist, I believe. And then that person will tap you into the resources that are available through Alberta Healthcare. So these are all things that we can offer employees, and places that you as employers can go to get some resources. But we will say, and we, as we sort of switch here, building personal resiliency in our employees is not enough, because we know that we could take even the most resilient person, and if we throw them in the shark infested waters, we can't just say, swim, you'll be fine. And so we want to take a look at the other part of that equation, and that is enhancing our overall workplace culture. When we're talking about building our workplace culture in relation to people and overall mental health and wellness and coping skills, what we're really talking about is psychological health and safety. And this is a term that's starting to get known in workplaces, but not as much. If you are looking to enhance your psychological health and safety, building your workplace in this regard, there is a great CSA standard. Unlike most CSA standards, this one's free. It's a free download. In fact, it's become the most downloaded CSA standard they've ever had. And the CSA standard on psychological health and safety in the workplace talks about prevention of harm to employees' mental health. It talks about how to promote mental health and wellness overall. And it has a resolution component that'll talk about how to resolve conflicts. Within that standard, there are 13 psychosocial factors. And I know that that list can almost look a little bit dizzying. There's so many things in there. But really, these are just part of what makes our workplace overall. So organizational culture, clear leadership and expectations, growth and development, balance, engagement. No employer is going to want to tackle 13 psychosocial factors all at once. So what you want to be doing is really assessing your organization and figuring out which one of those right now is our biggest issue. And then looking at one, maybe two that you want to address. So what's the easiest way to figure that out? I did let you know we'd have some tools on that. There is a website called Guarding Minds at Work. This has been put together by professionals and Great West Life sponsors it, so it's available free to all employers. And what you can do is go in, I recommend the short scan survey. So it is a 6-question survey that you can give to employees. And then you can actually feed those results back into the website. They've got a place you can sign up and do that. And then, yes, we're always trying to dance around a bit there. And then it will spit you out a report. And it will tell you which of those psychosocial factors is your biggest concern. And it will even give you action items and ideas on ways that you can manage. It's a fantastic resource. I really recommend it.
So we've looked at how can you assess your workplace culture. Now let's look at some tools on how you can enhance it. First off, you can do things like focusing on the positive. This may seem very simple and intuitive, but it's not a commonplace in a lot of workplaces. So we can do things like celebrating small wins. Every time there's something really good, let's make sure to make a point out of it. And it's good to start staff meetings with what went right. So everybody sits down and you want to talk about, okay, let's go around and everybody say something positive that happened either this week or at this event, etc. You want to make that a priority, maybe even schedule it in, have it the first thing on the agenda. And lastly, you can recognize and build on the strengths your businesses already have. What do you have in your business that's going well, and how can we push that forward and make it even better? You can focus on things like diversity, inclusion, and equity to make sure that we are creating a workplace that gives people a sense of belonging, that people feel included in their workspace. And we can recognize and appreciate employees for what they're doing. Small gestures can go a long way. This could be as simple as saying, hey, I noticed what you did, thank you. Or maybe giving them a shout out in a staff meeting. Or a $10 gift card can mean the world when it comes to an employee and recognizing something that they did for your business. You can also give it back to your employees and let them give and receive praise to one another, right? Find initiatives that employees feel empowered to do that. And lastly, you can always return it back to your health and safety committee and get their input and their ideas on ways to encourage employees. And you can also work to make your workplaces fun. Workplace culture can be something that is fun. So I want to ask you guys, what are some things that you do or see in your workplace that makes showing up to work fun? What are some ideas?
I'm in the greenhouse when I.
So greenhouse, there you go.
We also do a monthly, with just the women, we call it Fitness Friday. And we kind of do like, we've done Zumba, we've done yoga, we did some Indian dancing one time. And all we'll do is we just go into the training room, we put on a YouTube video and we just kind of dance around for half an hour.
Perfect. That's great. There's always unique ones in this. Yeah.
We intentionally have standing coffee breaks
Okay.
with giving everybody an opportunity to not talk about work and just share other things other than work, creating a safe space for people to talk about the good stuff. We have 8 employees with different abilities, and some show up specifically just for the coffee break. So we make sure that that is fun and there's refreshments. And then we definitely also have dance parties in the garage.
I love
that. We have dance parties and then stuff like, we call them lunch and learns so that we can spend the money accordingly. Mini golfing, team building, and just most recently at the parade, we just invited everybody and had a space in front of our area where they could bring maybe some of their family who doesn't always get to experience it, and just making it that it's not just about the the sorting of the bottles.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots of great
those are some really great ideas. Yeah, lots going on there.
Put a basketball net in the warehouse.
Perfect, there you go. That reminds me of The Office. I'm sure they had a basketball net in there.
Put a slurping machine and watch.
That's awesome. Great. Well, Susan may have taken mine, where I was gonna say that someone shared. One thing they did was, they did have all of their staff take a personality test. And then that was a fun thing that they all did together. I just thought it was great because that just helps you not only get to know yourself and how you want to work with others, but then you also get to look at your other staff members and say, oh, they like it better when, you know, I come to them in this way instead of that way. That's how they work. And I could see that making a far more cohesive team when you learn about the other people that you're working with. So
Still the underserved.
yeah. This just happened, so that's okay. So some other ideas we had that some of you guys shared. You can have a staff lunch or a pizza party. And then you also mentioned lunch and learn sessions. So whether you learn something like on YouTube or you bring someone in and you all just sit and eat together and learn, kind of like what we're doing today. You can also connect through common interests. So whether that's art or movies or reading books or sports, you can find ways to connect people through what they love. And you can also do things like interactive challenges or games. This could be as simple as putting some games or puzzles into the staff room. And then when people are on their breaks, they can play the games with other staff members and, you know, really connect with the people that they're working with on a more fun outside of work level.
So can we go back to that last one just for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to kind of ask a question. So especially for that last part, it's okay. The interactive challenges or games or what have you. How would you go about, you know, so say for example, you have kind of the old boys, right? Where they just kind of want to go have their smoke. They really just want you to leave them the hell alone. Right? But you're like, hey, let's go do something. And they're just, you know, but you know, deep down, there is a part of them that's like, oh, you know, like, maybe I do want to go, but they hold back because they're not used to having that fun work mentality, right? So like, how do you go about being like, hey, let's go throw the football around? Well, no, I'm gonna.
Try different activities where the level of participation doesn't have to be as high or everything else, like I did elf on the shelf. I know they do.
That's awesome.
They found it and moved over there and they keep it alligator.
Okay. Yes, you were.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, because then how much involvement they have is up to them and they can just sit back and enjoy it. Well, I was a covered place to hide her. Well, hey, I know a place where you can hide that, nobody will find it.
Right, okay. Oh, okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And we always find there's more knowledge in the room than anything, which is why we love this. So thank you. Yeah, that's a fantastic example. All right, we're gonna steal a quote from the Spider-Man movie. With great power comes great responsibility. And I think we're really using this to recognize what many of us as business leaders know, that as leaders, we have one of the biggest impacts on our overall workplace culture. And not just us as leaders, but as we said before, those people-facing leaders, our supervisors. So I want to ask a question. How many of you have had your supervisors trained to learn the skills that they need to best manage people? How many have had supervisor training that focuses on being a people leader? Just maybe give us a thumbs up or a hands up or a thumbs down if it's. Yeah, and I'm glad to see that. Often what happens in organizations is sometimes people get promoted to supervisor and they're given technical skills, but not necessarily those people skills that they need to be able to really relate to people. And that's a huge part of how your culture is translated and how employees are encouraged in terms of building those coping skills. Over this next bit, we're going to share with you just some of the things we have in our supervisor training. And one of the things we talk about is the idea about communicating and how important it is to be a good communicator. And I think one of the often underappreciated arts in relation to communication is listening. So there are two different kinds of listening. There's listening to respond and there's active listening. I'll give you an example. employee comes in, a coworker comes in over the lunch hour and they're sharing, they just got back from their vacation. And so they're telling you all about their vacation and they're really excited about it. And somewhere through their story, it suddenly triggers this memory of this really funny thing that happened on your last vacation. And so now you're not even really listening to them anymore. You're just kind of waiting for them to finish so you can jump in. I see some lots of nods and laughs. Yeah, you can jump in and share your really funny story. That's listening to respond. And what happens when we do that? We've lost that chance to connect with that person and build the rapport and build the relationship. If instead we were doing active listening, practicing active listening, we would park that story, wait for another day. And we do the verbal and nonverbal cues that we give people to show, yeah, I'm paying attention, I hear you, I'm listening. And more than that, we would ask those questions that are going to extend the conversation and really bring it to the next level. So what was your favorite part of the vacation? What would you recommend for someone else to do? Would you do it again? Those kinds of things.
And one of the biggest contributors to a negative workplace culture is conflict. So why should employees or employers even care about conflict? Well, we can see here, it's actually a big time consumer for a company. The average employee spends 2.8 hours each week dealing with conflict in the workplace. 30% of managers spend 5 or more hours per week addressing conflict within their teams. 25% of employees have taken time off to deal with conflict, and 10% ended up quitting their jobs due to unresolved conflict. And 36% of employees believe that workplace conflict negatively affects the quality of service that they give to their clients and customers. So I want to ask again back to you guys, how do you feel your supervisors are with dealing with workplace conflict? So maybe thumbs up or thumbs down or medium could be better. What do we think? How are supervisors in our workplace with dealing with conflict? They do lots of mid-range, thumb downs, lots of mid-range. Could be better, right? They deal with it, but maybe not the best way possible. Effective conflict management is not always easy. Oftentimes it can be quite difficult. And there are actually 7 steps to navigating a difficult conversation with an employee, but today we're just going to focus on the first one. So that could be probably a whole workshop in and of itself. And this first one is being objective. So as human beings, we naturally bring emotions and biases into almost everything we do. And that can sometimes be really great. But when it comes to having a conversation with an employee, it's important to take that step back and remain objective, to really park those biases. So some examples of biases could be something like a confirmation bias. So this is where we only accept and look at the facts that confirm our beliefs, and we tend to deny or reject or turn a blind eye to anything that kind of goes against what we already think and what we already believe. We can also look at one like the status quo bias. This was kind of touched on earlier, but this is the way we do things. So this is how it's always been done, right? Like get with the program or get out. I'm sure we all know people like that. So in order to move forward and to have these conversations, we want to remain objective and not bring in some of our biases. I think that's the one you're dealing with. All right, so where do we start? We've given a few sort of easy solutions for just bringing more positives into your workplace culture. At the end of the day, you really need to figure out what is your low-hanging fruit? What are the easiest things that we can do to start this moving forward? And then just keep in mind a concept of continual improvement. So we're going to start with the easy stuff where we know our biggest issues are, move it forward to the next thing and the next thing. It's kind of like a health and safety program, right? It's never perfect. You just keep building it and building it and building it. All right, that brings us into our conclusion. Just to kind of conclude overall the concepts that we covered, we really looked at workplace resilience. We looked at it from an employee perspective and the things that employers can do to really help people build those coping skills and enhance their resilience. And then we looked at it from an organizational perspective and the things that we can do in our workplace culture to make it more positive and make it a better place for people to be working. And once again, we gave you lots of information, and what I know from
back in my junior high days, if you put a whole bunch of information to people and you don't give them time to absorb it and think about it and apply it to themselves, it just doesn't get remembered. So we want to give you the last couple of minutes here. We do have a fun game to finish it off, but sort of this last bit, we want to give you just a couple minutes to think about, of all the things that we've shared today, what is something that might fit well into your business? What's something you want to take back and maybe bring into play this week or on Monday? Okay, so we'll give a couple minutes and we'll get some ideas back.
Something in mind that I was that's so basically, we haven't been running it.
Yeah.
And then when they came back, break and talk about I don't know if that's something we should apply on, but it just reminded me about really nice. It was just connecting. It was gonna say like we only got every so they would get this extra house.
How often?
Yeah, you should go. It depends on the week, like let's say during Christmas week, we're very busy, so it's just kind of like when
Don't go, you have a game.
I'm thinking that it's not exact. Yeah, it's just a good way to relax, take the rain, have some food, have some coffee, and then when you talk about the game, I think it's good. I think everybody.
21 years. Somebody picks out over his term.
No.
Let's get started on the.
Yeah. All right. Hey, guys, hopefully that gave you a chance to think about some of the ways that you want to carry this back to work when you go back today, tomorrow, Monday. So I want us to think back to the business example that we started with, and what we can take what we've learned today and use that and see what they can do to move forward. So firstly, they can assess their workplace resilience by using some of the tools that we talked about today and kind of gauge where they're at and where they can improve. And depending on what they find, they may choose to do things like train their supervisors, bring in some external training, and help them with their people managing skills. They can also look at training for employees, so building up their coping mechanisms or their stress management and just overall their resilience. They can look at their overall culture and see where can we make enhancements, where can improvements be made. And they can recognize this great point that you can all see at the bottom, that they're going to want to be building this forward. This isn't a one-off thing. So they're going to want to push for that continuous improvement and know that with continual effort, it's just going to get better and better for their business over time. All right. We're not leaving yet, but we do want to give a quick thank you to all of our sponsors. I do want to let you know a few other free resources that we've gathered together and put on our website. So we have a lesson learned from others. So these are businesses that have already put in a psychological health and safety program. So what did they do? What did they find? What were the pitfalls? Why did they do it? We have workplace cultures checklist, so a more in-depth way of just assessing your workplace culture overall. We have a mental health playbook for business leaders, just thinking about as a business leader's perspective, how do we enhance mental health and wellness? We have a checklist called Why Start From Scratch, because you probably already have lots of things in your workplace, so it recognizes what you have and then can think about what you need to add. And we have a 10 healthy mental habits poster. It's just a download that you can download it, print it off, put it in the lunchroom, and just start those conversations going. And that's our website.
The website's under the little bar.
It is. It's in-scope.ca.
It's at the end of the email.
Yeah, there we go.
That's the one. So the resources will be listed on there, and if you have any issues, you can just give us an email, because they can be a little hard to find. I
All
think
right,
sometimes.
now, we're gonna get competitive. We're gonna finish it off.
So we wanna go back into that same browser, kahoot.it. And we'll pull it up, and, or you can scan the QR code again. Yes, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, we're coming in the room already.
Perfect. So this one is competitive, so it's gonna be gauged on how quickly you answer, and if you get it right. If you get it right, you don't get any points, so make sure. Yeah, so don't stress. And the 3 winners on the podium, we have 3 Timmy's gift cards. So if you like, if you're a coffee addict like me, this is serious business, okay? So give everyone another minute or so, make sure it's in there, and then we can get started. Oh, put back the QR code back.
Yep, there we go.
Sick work.
I knew right from the beginning you had a competitive bit. I'm like, kind of more just a joke.
Was it though?
No. It's
Okay, can you guys see if I'm standing here?
I know.
Yeah, stay there.
Yeah, I know.
Not the best room. Okay, I'll quickly dump.
Anyone else need a minute? Good.
Maybe I'll stand.
Behind?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would work.
it's more important to see this than our presentation. This is the real deal.
All right. Keep your browser open. Drop out, and here we go.
All right, let me make it big screen.
Sorry.
What is the relationship between your presenters? Besties? Oh no! Enemies? Mother, daughter, or they met on the street? Can you move this bar?
Oh, yeah, I bet you'd be able to move the bar, yeah.
The bar shouldn't even last.
I know
Not
we
there.
can't get it.
Yeah, they're there, I guess. I mean, we are besties, so I'll give you guys that one.
Friends are nice too.
Keep that one.
Nice, it's done the draw.
Oh, KP.
All right, how can employers build a more resilient workplace culture? Discouraging employee feedback, installing a whack-a-mole game, company-wide demolition derby, or training supervisors to better empower employees.
Who was fast and up?
Mallory.
Right.
What is something that influences workplace culture? Recognition and reward, having bad fashion sense, lunchroom karaoke, or wearing tin hats to protect from the aliens. I mean, lunchroom karaoke. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, Mallory.
Mallory.
Moving on.
You quick was that? How many stages are there in the mental health continuum? 3, 4, 5, or 6? Numbers. Don't let the mix fool you.
Fool you.
It is 4 stages.
All right, ooh, what happened now?
Oh, KB.
Okay, this just got interesting. I'm invested now. Yeah, gosh, coming in to take over. In general, your inner voice should only speak in a British accent, whisper sweet nothings to itself, be a good friend, or sing in sync on repeat.
We're going right to the end of the time. They just can't understand the British accent.
Just because it's singing in sync on repeat doesn't mean it should.
Oh, stay the same, CP and Emily, CP, all right.
What percentage of our worrying thoughts never happen? 23%, 56%, 74%, or 91%? Okay, it was fast. 91%. Everybody's paying attention.
Okay, see.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Okay, question 7. Organizational resilience is most impacted by 1, lazy employee, having loud dance music on 24/7, workplace culture, or getting a live company mascot. Yes, workplace culture.
Don't have anyone going for the distraction.
Okay. DK's moving up.
Admitted.
There are blank workplace psychosocial factors. 7, 13, 17, or 20. Yeah. 13, good job. Well, staying the same. All right. See if they can hold on to their spots. Something that can impact our ability to remain objective is biases, millennials, annoying people, or a favorite TV show getting canceled. Good job, our biases.
Oh.
Last question, fighter. With great power comes a headache, a god complex, the next superhero movie, or great responsibility.
There we go. Okay, here we go.
Drum roll. Third place, Emily.
Emily. Come on, Emily.
First place, Katie. Good job. So after the presentation, you guys can come down and grab your gift cards. Thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate it. You are again up more.
Yep.
If you guys want to contact